if you're 100% P&T and working, by the time you are 50 or definitely 62, you can live the American dream, right? Work your whole life and finally live the dream. And what I mean by that is if you can live within your means of your income from your job because you're working full time and use your VA compensation to just tackle debt, whatever your credit cards look like, I'm talking about 100% of that VA compensation goes to debt, and you live within your means on your paycheck, pay off your credit cards. I would do it in this order. This is going to sound a little bit like Dave Ramsey for anyone who watches that. Credit cards, cars, and then my house. That's the order of which I would do things in, right? If you have a TSP, if you're in the federal sector, make sure you have that too. If you have kids, have 529s, but you also have Chapter 35, which is completely separate benefits, right? 529s will help pay for tuition. Chapter 35 is just like a stipend. You can buy books, you can buy a dorm, you can use that to, for gas, whatever. You can use it for whatever you want. It's a stipend. Chapter 35 is not for tuition, although you can also use it for tuition too. But seriously, I think those veterans in the most serious possible meaning I can convey this through a YouTube video is I genuinely believe that veterans who work full-time and are 100% can rule the world, can set themselves up to be debt-free, where all of your income's disposable, where your kids go to school for free. I mean, that's my dream, right? I have 4 children, 4 kids. If I did not have Chapter 35, I would be screwed, seriously. Well, they would, because I wouldn't pay for their college. I'm just kidding, right? Of course I would. I'm a good dad. But seriously, and I don't think anyone talks about that enough because it's kind of a sticky topic. Because I know someone's going to be like, well, you're disabled, you shouldn't work, or I'm 100% IU and I can't work, and therefore, I'm not there. Which that's not invalidated. That sucks, right? If you were TDIU, I mean, just to be straight up with you, that sucks. Like I'm sorry that your disabilities keep you from working, and that sucks. That's just the honest truth. But for those who can work with disabilities, you have 2 options. Okay. You either take advantage of that and set yourself up and set your children up, or if you're single, I have a friend who's 52, who's a retired 06, which is insane. Who's also 100%, who has 0 kids, single, never been married. And you know what he does? Whatever he wants. Okay. He does whatever he wants. And you can choose that route to set yourself up or your family up or not. Like those are your options. Right? You can spend it on a motorcycle, on a car. You can always keep having a new car and having a car payment. You can do that. That's fine. Not in my book, but I personally wouldn't do that. But you can, or you could really, really take advantage of a benefit that taxpayers do give us, right? We are extremely blessed and privileged to be 100% and still work. And it's kind of that the good is bad, but the bad is good thing. It's like, man, I really struggle with PTSD and I have night terrors. I have, I'm super irritable. I lash out at my wife and kids a lot. It's like, man, that really sucks. But hey, I'm 70% from it, right? It's like it's good, it's bad and good and good and bad. And there's really no it's a hodgepodge of suck. It's like a good suck, it hurts so good. That's really all I have, Jason. I'm not a financial guru. I do think that if you are working 100% P&C and you make a good living based on where you are, I would at a minimum have a financial counselor just say, hey, how can I set my future up? I have this benefit of 100% compensation, and in 5 years' time, you could be debt-free minus your house. Imagine the only payment you have is your mortgage, which your disability is going to cover anyways, and like your phone bill and insurance. Like that's it.
It's a good place to be.
Imagine.
Right. And
really
you know what? I think what we need to do is at some point here in the future, we will bring on a guest, right? and talk about, just different ways to be financially sound, right? So whether it's buying real estate property as rental properties, or even maybe a financial advisor like you had mentioned, right? So maybe we'll have a couple different guests here in the future on that type of stuff. I think that might be a good thing to look into. I think we know enough people to where we can find somebody. And just to throw this out there for folks, right? If you get rated 100%, even if it's not permanent and total, but once you get to that 100% mark, right? A lot of times it's going to turn into a permanent and total situation, right? For most cases, it's just they need a little more time to see the longevity of your condition and that it doesn't improve. Now, here's the interesting number. If your compensation is $4,000 a month, which is basically like you and a spouse, right? Or you and a dependent. $4,000 a month. $4,000 a month is not really $4,000 a month because it's tax-free. So really it's like $5,000 a month. Okay, you take 1 1/4 of that. So 1 1/4 of that amount over 12 months, right, equals X. Over 30 years. Okay, so if you're 20, well, not 20, if you're 25, right? If you're 25, we'll just say years old, 30 years is now you're 55. If you're, I know I'm doing stupid math for people. If you're 50 years old, right, and you get rated 100%, 30 years, you're 80, right? So most of us are going to live between those time frames, right? So if you get rated before you're 50 years old, 30 years goes by at 100%, that equals, if you gross it up, right, because it's tax-free money, that's the equivalent of $1.8 million. $1.8 million. So when we say, look, you might have had some stumbling blocks when you filed your first claim, you didn't prove your nexus, you didn't really understand what they were looking for, take a knee, adjust fire, and get back into the game, because this is literally a multi-million-dollar deal that you are trying to wrap up. We didn't write the rules, right? We didn't say that migraines count as a disability. We didn't say that a motor tic, a twitch in your eye counts as a disability. We didn't include any of that type of stuff. This is what is written for us. Why? The way I look at it is, look, you join the military, everybody signed the same dotted line, payable up till death, all that stuff, right? The blank check thing. So we've all done that. Then from that point, I don't know, is there going to be a war? Is a war going to stop? Are they going to send me to it, or are they not going to send me to it? You have pretty much zero control when you're an E1 or an O1, right? You don't get to, you're not calling any shots, right? You go where they tell you to go. So you rolled the dice, and there you are. And guess what? The military is going to pay you like crap while you're in. We've all done the monkey math. Wow, look, they own me 24 hours a day times 7 days a week, and this is how much. Look, I'm getting paid $1.50 an hour, whatever it is, right? So we've all done that funny math. And the way I look at it is the government, because we have DOD and VA, work together and go, look, you're going to serve through this time period. If you do so honorably, we're going to take care of you with any ailment that shows up within you during your time in service or as a result of your time in service, regardless of what it is, as long as it's chronic in nature, some sort of residual effects, it's just an ongoing problem. We got your back and we'll take care of you through the VA. Problem is that recruiters don't tell you this. The military doesn't tell you this. The VA barely tells you this as you're going through TAP. And they say it in such a PowerPointy overview, disability sort of way that you don't even realize that what you're missing. So all that to say is that there is a substantial opportunity and leg up that you will receive, really, quite frankly, at almost any percentage, especially the 50% and up realms. But once you get into that 100%, you are at a different level. All of a sudden, you have $2 million in the bank, and you're taking out a monthly check out of that. every single month, almost like just taking the interest rate, the interest that you earned on it, right? So I have it in the bank, I'm earning interest on it, and I'm bringing that every single month. Imagine if you invested half of that, especially if you weren't used to having it, right? If you weren't used to having that money, then all of a sudden you got it and you went, okay, fine, we'll take half for me and we'll put half into some sort of an investment, whether it's a rental property or some sort of investment account or what have you. It's a good thing to try to leverage to increase your wealth. And like you had mentioned before, Clay, that is what can move somebody into generational wealth if you play your cards right. Or you can live a life like no other. And that's cool too, right? I mean, whatever. If you don't have a wife and kids and all that stuff, and you want to go out like your 06 guy that and you're buying a new car every 3 years, and going out on the boat, well, then that's what you do, and you could do it. So it's up to you. But back to, I think we need to bring on a couple guests, man. I think it would be great to throw, to get some real numbers, some real ideas on how impactful it can be, because just the numbers alone were staggering to me. We're so focused on the here and now. I get a check for $4,000. Okay, what's that really? Oh, you mean that you're going to live for probably another 50 years?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's like, $2.5 million or more, $3 million. Wow, that's amazing. So, and what are your thoughts on any of that?
It would be super cool to like have a baseline, a actual financial person who knows what they're talking about. Like saying, hey, I make 80 grand, my family makes 80 grand a year. I have one spouse, 2 children. I'm 100% PNT. We have 2 credit cards at 10 grand each. We have 2 car payments at 30 grand each. What is my day to day or month to month budget to become debt free? I would love to see that happen. But it goes back to this, right? And I know we're probably going to get negative comments. I can already just see them now. To be honest with you, I don't really care, by the way. If that's you, I don't care. But
I'll type one in for you.
Yeah, it is the least, in my opinion, it's the least the country can do for those who are 100% PNC, is to get them to middle class, to get them to, I would probably say middle to high, right? Definitely not your 1%. VA disability is not going to put you in the 1%. It's not. You're going to have to work. You're going to have to pay off your debts. You could technically become a millionaire once you own your home, right? And so you could have that million in assets. You're definitely not going to be a part of the 1%. But I do think if you're a PNC, there is no reason outside of spending behaviors that 100% PNT veteran who works full time cannot get to middle to high class. That would be like minimum standard for those. And I think the country owes those veterans, especially after a 20+ year war. And then all the other, no one talks about Panama, Shield Storm is forgotten about. No one talks about that peacetime era. It's the least the country can do, in my opinion, right? I like how you said that we rolled the dice and we signed the blank check. Okay, well, we signed the blank check. We did our time. Now I have all these disabilities, right? All of these ailments from service that do affect not just you, the veteran. And I always say this too, it doesn't just affect me. It affects my wife. It affects my children. It affects my relationship with my mom, right? Depending on what disabilities you're talking about, it can suck. And if you are on that musculoskeletal heavy side, not really the mental health side, that's much worse. Like I think it is visibly much worse to have a back at 40%, to have radiculopathy at 40% in each leg, which sucks, by the way, to have, irritable bowel syndrome, to have COPD, to have disabilities that are visibly, they walk by you and you're like, oh man, I feel sorry for you, versus that veteran that walks by that has mental health, that has sleep apnea, that has migraines. You might see them lash out here and there, but they'll walk right in front of you straight up. Like you won't see the disability. And so I just want to reiterate that. I don't like just how VA pension. I think they should call it VA welfare personally, and then VA disability. Just call it VA compensation.
Right.
You rented our bodies. They were damaged. Compensate us for that.